How the person who killed Pop Smoke only got 7 years and 2 months. I'm Rugburn.
And I'm Pickled Landon.
And this is Tombstone Tourist. So today we'll be talking about Pop Smoke and the people that were involved with his murder. Back in April, one person was sentenced. He was not the trigger man, however, but his sentence was rather lenient. He got 7 years, 2 months. With that being said, I kind of wanted to get into Pop Smoke's actual case and everything leading up, and then we're going to kind of, at the end of this video, we're going to go ahead and talk about what we kind of think the future is for the other three people involved with this. Started off, Pop Smoke just going to Hollywood for a little vacation, kind of relaxing. He's living it up. He rents a luxurious Airbnb in the Hollywood Hills. He's chilling with a guy named Mike D. And while they're out doing all their stuff, they're constantly on Instagram, constantly posting pictures, flaunting money, designer stuff, things like that, kind of just painting an overall picture as to what they're doing and kind of just the luxurious lifestyle they're living. But with that kind of attention and imagery also comes jealousy, hate, and people might start plotting for the worst. People did, and they see all this, and the pictures are leading a trail of breadcrumbs up to essentially where they're at. One picture that Mike D posted had the address shown, and it wasn't the whole address. It was only missing the first number of the address, but it was enough to where people could kind of start to piece it together, as well as it had a geotag. Now, the geotag is kind of like where it gets a little iffy, because now they have a more of an idea, an exact idea as to where they might be, and can start figuring it out, start looking through Airbnb posts, things of that nature.
Yeah, while it's not an exact location, it does shrink the circle, if you will, as to where you're at. And like you said, envy it sucks, but it does exist. In flaunting your lifestyle on there, but then telling people where you are, it's not like you're asking for it, but you're painting a picture and then almost painting a target on your back a little bit, and then giving them your exact location. It's not the smartest thing to do if you have money, in my opinion, is to tell everybody where you're at all the time.
Yeah, and that might have been enough already just with that for them to be able to find it. They could start looking through Airbnb reports, things like that. And let's not forget that Los Angeles is the B&E capital of America.
Yeah, it's a place where you definitely want to take your valuables inside.
Yeah. Inside? Where they're breaking and entering?
Oh, well, I guess that's probably bad. I mean, well, generally out of your car, I've always heard a rule, like, I think Seth Rogen said it, you should leave your windows rolled down, because if they're going to take it, they're going to take it.
I don't think anywhere is safe in California. I think B&E, it's the whole lifestyle out there. There's songs like dedicated to this stuff. YG pretty much has a whole walkthrough of a song on how to do it. It's very known that people will go through the rich neighborhoods and kind of break in. And I think the flaunting of money only enticed everyone in the area to want to figure out where he's at, because just the money in the pictures is enough to get someone who's paycheck to paycheck, or maybe just a gangbanger and doesn't have any money, period, to want to go ahead and harm you and take what you have.
Yeah.
So Mike D and Pop Smoke would kind of keep partying it up, living it up just pretty much while they're out there, just enjoying themselves, whatever. They cop a few things from Amiri. They would have another fatal flaw in this, though. They would show some goods that they had gotten, and inside on one of the labels was the full address to their Airbnb. He was told later by a manager to go ahead, take it down, that there had been an air maid, but there had already been gang members from the Hoover gang watching his every move on Instagram and kind of plotting on him. Pop obviously didn't know this. So him and Mike D went to a recording studio, left the Airbnb for a little bit. However, while they're gone, a black SUV would pull up with the two teens inside that were plotting on Pop Smoke. Now, they would kind of circle the area, but they wouldn't do anything, and they would wait for him to come back.
It's easy to see how a day like this would lead you to not believe anything bad was going to happen. It sounds like a win for both parties all the way through, for Mike D and for Pop Smoke. You're partying, you're having a good time, you're shopping. Pop Smoke was about to start a tour. He's like on the last week of his vacation. He's just living it up, and they're flexing.
Yeah.
But like you said, they showed the address, and these guys have a lot of money on them. In my opinion, at this point, they should have switched either Airbnbs or went to a hotel, because there was enough time for somebody to figure out where you were.
Yeah.
We know that already. it just seems like I don't know why their head didn't go there, like why they weren't more concerned. It makes me wonder, like maybe they were just having that good of a time. Like it would just seem like you're on cloud nine, nothing bad can happen today.
I definitely think so, and I think there was a little bit of carelessness in this whole thing. Maybe he was just riding the high from he's a fresh artist, he's coming up, he's making a lot of money. And I mean, like you said, they're overall just having a good day. So maybe he's just not thinking about it. But I do think that when the talent manager called and informed him, hey, you just leaked the whole address of your Airbnb, like you said, I do believe they should have just left at that point and called it a day and kind of just kept it pushing. And I mean, the other people are going to know the area way more. Just by pictures, maybe they already knew. Maybe all they did was probably scroll through Airbnb. That one picture where it had the first three,
Yeah.
I'm sure you could just type that in and kind of like scroll through Airbnb listings.
So even if it was kind of a shitty picture with the first three numbers and the address, the geolocation.
The last three numbers.
The last three. I wanted to ask you, though, do you think, you said he was an up-and-coming rapper. Do you think that there was some naivety there, some just being kind of new to the whole, I guess, having big money game?
Maybe the fame hadn't hit him yet and he was still used to moving normal. And he didn't realize that so many people had eyes on the Instagram, which, I don't know, it could have just been an oversight on his part. But let's get the last little bit of this story wrapped up and kind of close everything as far as his demise and how that part happened. So the two teens, they would come back, but this time they would arrive in an Infiniti. So they went, switched cars at some point. Pop and Mike D had, at this point, come back to the Airbnb. So they're at the Airbnb. Pop Smoke's just kind of showering, whatever. It's at this point they break in, and there's a lot of conjecture that they had looked the place up on Airbnb and kind of got a route as far as to the inside of the house, the layout of the whole house. And they used this to their advantage, and they kind of acted really swiftly. And it looked like things were going to go okay. They asked him for the watch that he had on. He had on a Rolex. And he originally kind of like gets ready, hands it over. But it's at this point he lunges at them to get it back or kind of like stop the whole situation, go for the gun. I'm not exactly sure what he was thinking in that moment. Maybe it was just knee-jerk reaction, a fight or flight kind of situation. But he lunges and he gets shot in the chest. And then at this point, after he's shot in the chest, he's still kind of like active. He gets shot twice in the back as well. It's at this point they leave. They're kind of scared, rushed, in a bit of a hurry, and I imagine just stressed from the whole thing. So they leave with just the Rolex. Later on, they would sell the Rolex and end up splitting the cash, which only got $2,000 for the Rolex. I imagine they just got it off as quickly as they could, but it was that one Rolex that would end a superstar's life as well as alter the future for these teens' lives as well.
So you pointed up that they came back in the Infiniti, and instead of kind of calling the whole thing off, they took the time, realizing that they weren't there, to plan it out a little further, to get more information, look up pictures on Airbnb, figure out where the doors, windows, stuff like that, etc., so that they can get in and get out as quick as possible. When they finally commit to the robbery, like you said at the end, they're anxious and they rush out. I think it's because they didn't want to kill him. I think they really just wanted that Rolex and that cash that they had been watching on the Instagram stories all day. Mm-hmm. And in an attempt to get that, they didn't expect, with most people, you expect if you point a gun at him, point blank range, and the man's in the shower. You've got him dead to rights. Nobody's going to expect him to lunge and do anything. But he did.
And I mean, they could have just, it's probably lack of experience too. I believe at the time, one of them was 15 at the time of the B&E. And that being said, he probably didn't have much experience one way or the other as far as like how to properly do this, if there is a proper way to do this. And it just led to a sloppy job. And probably he got scared when he got lunged at, because I can imagine if you're 15 or however old, how old was the shooter, do you know?
The shooter was the youngest one. He was 15 at the time.
15, okay.
The two that planned it, they were teenagers. And they brought two people back with them. When they replanned everything, they came back with backup because 3 went into the house and 1 stayed in the Infiniti to drive them off. But yeah, the trigger man was the youngest member. They were both kids.
And this is a common practice in a lot of places too. They'll send kids to go crash out just because they know that juvenile courts are going to be easier on them as opposed to an adult court. So it very well could have been that the Hoover gang kind of was just like, hey, here's 2 crash dummies. They're going to go out. They're really green to the whole thing. If anything does go left, it's all right. They'll be back out in a little bit. But I don't think that they intended on shooting him. I do agree with that. We do have the exact charges that they were charged with.
Yeah. You want to go over some of that?
Yeah, let's go over that.
Okay, so they would be arrested on July 9th of 2020. One of the unnamed minors, because they will not release the names of the two juveniles, the two plotters, the one that kind of enacted the whole plan, because they were underage at the time, even though they are of age now. This is not the trigger man, and he was 17 at the time. He ended up pleading guilty to voluntary manslaughter and home invasion robbery. Now, he only received a 4-year, 2-month sentence at a juvenile facility. But it's important to note that he was not given credit for time served. So his total sentence, as you mentioned earlier, was 7 years, 2 months, is what he's going to ultimately serve. Now, the other unnamed minor, now this is the trigger man. He was 15 at the time of the crime. He's also pled guilty. He's awaiting sentencing, and he may be in a juvenile facility until he's about 25. He confessed to home invasion robbery and alleged discharge of a firearm, as well as first-degree murder. He also will not receive credit for time served, which was also about 3 years. There were 3 adult men also charged in connection to the murder. One was dropped, and the other 2 are awaiting trial.
So, I don't know. Do you think he's going to get out when he turns 25?
I do believe, reading the articles and stuff, that that's ultimately what's going to happen. That's another 7 years, because he's 18 now.
I'm kind of leaning towards he might just get transferred at that point, just on the fact that he did the actual murder. Like, he was the trigger man. So I'm feeling like he's going to get a little more time. Now, how much? I'm not exactly sure.
Well, if you think about it, with the 3 years he's already served and then another 7, he's looking at 10 compared to the other minor's 7-year sentence. That extra 3 years seems, in my head, with the way that they're kind of handing out these sentences, it seems fitting that the trigger man would get 3 more years. It doesn't seem like he's going to get anything crazier than that.
Yeah, I mean, it is California, and California just loves homeless people and criminals. So, like...
Yeah, they're not Florida. Florida would have handed you a life sentence over this.
Oh, easy. It would have been an open shut case. But I don't know. It kind of brings up the question, does California need to kind of go over their whole legal system again? It might be a time for like someone red to get into office or something. I feel like they've just kind of flown by and just let whatever happen. You know, if you go out and visit, there's so many homeless people, and I feel like B&Es would be less of a thing if they kind of made the repercussions more severe and kind of didn't just, give you, a little slap on the wrist and be like, go ahead, go on your way, you're good. Not a big deal.
I definitely think I can agree with you that a 4-year, 2-month sentence for committing murder or manslaughter and then armed robbery, because it was armed robbery. There were several people in the home. Yeah. People had guns held to their heads. Yeah, I don't think that's enough time. And I look at it from like an educational standpoint, where do you have enough time to reform somebody in 4.5 or 4 years to become a different person than they were when they committed the crime? And you have enough time to take a youth and then transform him into a different person in that 4 years? And I say no. So whether that's, like you said, is that like getting somebody red or just changing the way that they punish it or the way that they view the crime.
Yeah, the only reason I say that is because places like Florida and Texas and such, with more strict sentencing on things like that, are typically red states. So I don't know if it's just to do with them being blue for so long that they kind of just are more lenient on things like that. Or, maybe the right person, the right mayor can kind of get things, the right governor, whatever, can kind of get things going in the right direction and kind of...
I think there's a lot of variables. I think a lot of it has to do with population. I think there's a lot to be said with what you're saying. That like if you punish somebody for doing something, then clearly it's not going to entice them to do it again. This guy may be out in 4 years and kill somebody else or commit another crime.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what I'm saying is I agree with you. However, it has to be done. Like you can't get a 4-year sentence for committing murder. I just don't think that's appropriate. There are people that commit robberies, like that steal from a Walmart, that get higher sentences than 4 years because of how much it was worth. There are people that steal cars. I'd rather give a chance to somebody like that than to somebody that took life.
Yeah, absolutely, whether it's accidental or not.
Yeah.
And, I mean, with that being said, you got any closing statements on this situation, or...?
I mean, always protect where you're at, and if you got a lot of money, man, don't tell everybody where you're at all the time.
Yeah, keep the Instagram posts kind of to a low. don't reveal your location, and, you know, maybe wait to post that flex until the next day. Let us know down in the comments below what you guys think on this situation. Do you think the kids got off way too easy? Do you think Pop Smoke should have just gave it up and shouldn't have lunged at him? What do you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button. I'm Rugburn.
And I'm Pickled Landon.
And this is Tombstone Tourist.